Welcome to the class here on spiritual kinesiology, a powerful approach to energy healing, EFT coaching, and more. This is Philip Montrose with my wonderful wife and partner, Jane Montrose.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here.
And I'll put us on screen share here, a couple slides. This is a wonderful topic, a wonderful healing modality, one of the best kept secrets in the universe, we think. We're a little biased since we developed the spiritual kinesiology process ourselves, which we'll explain. This is a wonderful tool, very versatile, and it came out of decades of experiences we've had in the fields of personal and spiritual growth, Jane and myself. It's fast, it's easy, it's deep. We've trained many hundreds of holistic practitioners in this every year. So it's a process that is great not only for healing, but for spiritual development. It really is on the leading edge of spiritual and holistic healing. So you're in the right place today listening to this class live or recording, because you're going to have keys to deep spiritual healing. You're going to learn how to accelerate your spiritual development, at least to be aware of the spiritual kinesiology process, and you may want to go further and actually learn it and master it. And we'll find out more as we go into how to do that. You're going to open up to the truth within more. I'm sure all of you have a degree of that, or you wouldn't even be on a call like this, a class. You're going to discover your true potential and purpose through spiritual kinesiology too, and you're going to create the life you were born to live. SK, that's the nickname for spiritual kinesiology. SK can pinpoint very exact and clear blocks, often with amazing ease, using muscle testing, kinesiology. There's many ways to do muscle testing, which we'll include in this, although it's not a muscle test training in itself. And I'm going to see if I can, let's see how to get I'm going to kind of quiet things down here. There's
if anybody can, if you can mute yourselves, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I have to kind of get out of screen share to, yeah, let me just, okay. I think I muted that, and I'm going to go back to screen share. Anyways, it is a wonderful process to live the life you were born to live, and it can pinpoint these blocks, often quite quickly with muscle testing, which is an optional part of it, actually, the kinesiology. It's fast, effective. It works in combination with things like EFT or by itself. It's our own invention. And for EFT users and other holistic practitioners, you may want to add this to your toolbox, spiritual kinesiology, or use it standalone. It's really wonderful to do that. So we're going to give you all that we can give in this 60 to 70 minute class today. Stick around for the end because we're going to do a live demo. And we're also going to tell you how coaching is really essential to use, we think, with all healing, including spiritual kinesiology, and go into that briefly too toward the end. So stick with us on that, and I'll turn it over to Jane.
Thank you. It's been really a wonderful journey for us. We started in a more, I guess, deliberate way, studying healing in the early 1990s with Reiki. We learned some really powerful spiritual healing processes. We studied holistic hypnotherapy, kinesiology, NLP, and just a variety of many things. And we've explored more since that time. And we actually began teaching also around 1994 a holistic hypnotherapy training course. And all of that experience, which has led over many years to where we are now, we teach a more comprehensive program. It was, and it still is, a great learning experience for us and our students. I think we just couldn't ask for more. And I think the wonderful thing about us, we've become known as innovators in the field with EFT and also the other techniques like spiritual kinesiology, because we're always interested in learning. And we're wanting to find, it's kind of in our nature to want to find faster, deeper, and more effective techniques that we can use, both with ourselves, our students, our clients, readers of our publications. So we've always been looking for solutions when people get stuck. And those who use EFT know that emotional freedom techniques know that EFT, when it works, it's great, right? I mean, it's when it doesn't work easily that you have to have additional skills, and that's where spiritual kinesiology and the using muscle testing can really deepen the experience and help people to get where they need to go. I think for myself, there would be times, even with all the skills that we had, when I just couldn't figure out what was happening. Like something didn't feel right. I was just off, and I couldn't figure out why. And that was, to me, one of the most frustrating things. And one of my motivations for actually creating this system is, okay, so what do you do when you don't know what's happening? And I think we've all been there, and those of us who work with other people also, we see that with clients too. And you want to really be able to get into those areas. There's a lot that's below the surface of our awareness that we just can't find. And so the muscle testing is highly effective for pinpointing the hidden sources and helping to kind of just trigger enough awareness that it starts the conversation. And then more and more emerges as you go along, which is really amazing too. So this system, that's why we combine kinesiology to pinpoint with and with specific checklists. We have a whole series of checklists that we've created and time tested over now the 20 years. So they're highly effective, and then using also fast and easy healing techniques. So we have EFT that users can use, and also the reframing and anchoring, which is drawn from NLP and has a specific nuance to it that makes it especially effective. So, if you're like us and you want to speed things up and create a wonderful life, I mean, that was a big motivator for us too. We just didn't want a ho-hum life at a certain point. We got burned out in our jobs, and we really wanted to live. And this is what we want for others too. It's built into us, the desire to live fully, to expand and grow and have new experiences and really reach our full potential. So, maybe you're confused because there are a lot of options out there. I mean, that happened to us. We've seen a lot of complex, laborious, and basically ineffective approaches, and wonder, well, why does it have to be that hard? And it doesn't. That's the wonderful thing about it. And then also being disappointed. Many times we're disappointed with false promises of systems that were supposed to produce tremendous results, but they didn't. They just didn't. In some cases, we couldn't figure out if they worked at all.
Yeah. The part of the journey is that a lot of people do wonderful work, and there's some other wonderful systems and healing systems and tools out there, and we acknowledge it and use others ourselves, of course. But then there's also a lot of over-delivering and over-promising. So how do you know the difference? It is a journey.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We've tested, like I mentioned, over time. So maybe also some of you might want these kind of tools just for yourself, which is great. They really do. You can do a lot with them. But if you want to add them to a practice also, it has tremendous value to clients. They can understand, if you're working with clients, you can understand where they're coming from much more easily. There's a whole, included in the system also is a way to understand kind of where people are on their journey. We're on this journey to wholeness, and we're in different places. So if you can't work with everybody the same because they're in completely different realities, you could say, or just mindsets. or lack of mindset, depending on the case.
Right.
So that when I started working with people and actually identifying some of those things and speaking with them more directly about what I saw happening for them right at that particular time, sometimes they would just start crying, like, you understand me. And so many times when we're in these really challenging places, we feel like nobody understands us. And in many cases, it's true, because we're in a place in our journey that's very personal and often potentially maybe ahead of where other people are, so they can't understand them. So, on a larger scale, also over the years, we recognized and validated the deepest source of healing. And when you can access healing at its deepest source, then it's more profoundly transformational, and it also is more lasting, because you're actually getting to something that is the basis of things. And so then everything else falls to place more easily, and you can actually move ahead and create this life that you want. So, and we'll talk more about that, that particular thing that is so important as we go on. But to me, when we developed this, it was for about a year, we didn't even teach it, because it was especially with the healing technique, it's so effective. You just wouldn't believe that it could possibly work. I mean, we had a hard time believing it ourselves. But that was way back in the 90s, and we finally found the daring to go out and try it out with other people, and found that, yeah, this actually works.
It does work.
Yeah.
Should I give a little brief history of how we found it, kind of the 1 minute?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm sure people are wondering, how in the world did we come up with this tool, which we're going to demonstrate and explain to you in the next hour here. Well, we went to a conference in the 1990s, a hypnotherapy conference, and there was a man named Carl Carpenter, an older man who he was showing something called Kinesiology, hypno like hypnotherapy, and it was using some reframing and anchoring, and we'll talk a little more about that, touching, and he used an affirmation, of a well-known affirmation, when he would help the person he was doing the process on change. He said, every way and every day and every way I'm getting better and better. It's a famous Emile Coué affirmation, a healing affirmation. He would say that, and he would touch just 2 points on the person's arm, and then it would last, this whole thing would do 1 or 2 minutes, really, once he got into it, just a very brief, and the person's issue would be gone. And it would be like a sleight of hand or magic trick, and we go, what? What happened there? We don't, and he did it again. I mean, he'd been doing it for years and years and years, and it kind of developed this, and it evolved for him. So when we took it,
can I add?
Go ahead.
Sometimes, just so we're not, to be clear, sometimes it takes more than one round.
Yes.
In other words, you can do it and repeat it. It might incrementally shift. We don't want to give the impression that it always works just doing it one time, but you'll do one round. It'll just take a couple minutes, and then you can follow up with other rounds.
Right. So, there may be other things in, like EFT, and we teach that, and holistic EFT, and going deeper into things and having to find out deeper awareness just to get to the healing. That can be part of it. But to finish the story of how we created it, and the creative intuition and the aha and innovation that this process is, well, we took it, and he did some muscle testing beforehand too, about the issue of if the person would test weak or strong for the issue. And then after he did the hypnokinesiology, the person would test strong. In other words, the issue didn't bother the person again. So what we did, the innovation we made, we took what worked, and this was based on hypnotherapy and NLP and reframing and anchoring and that affirmation. And instead of using the affirmation for the reframe, the intervention, we used something called soul centering, which we had learned and developed prior to that for several years too, which is kind of a intimate direct connection with your soul, and we'll show that today. And we took that energy, and it can be done very quickly. And once we applied that as a reframe, that seemed to make it even more powerful, more profound, sometimes with guidance and direction directly from the soul to it. So that was the birth, the innovation that is we call spiritual kinesiology. And the muscle testing part is really optional. It's the reframing and anchoring the intervention of the soul that makes the big difference.
Right. It's if you look at the levels of healing, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, it's like layers in our energetic makeup in the human energy field, and the spiritual one is the deepest. So whatever is cleared at the spiritual level is also going to be affecting the mental, emotional, and then the energetic, physical as well. So, and I think Doc was going to talk about that a little bit coming up here too.
Right. Yeah, I want to go into that too.
Yeah, so go ahead.
So this is how spiritual kinesiology can accelerate healing and personal and spiritual growth, which we've referred to, because it's going to give you confidence, which most people want more confidence and clarity, right? By understanding this simple secret. What's the secret? Did he say it? What's the secret? The secret is the deepest level of healing is spiritual. So it's not about so much having or getting. All of this is embodied, your physical body, your mental body, your thoughts, your feelings within this spiritual framework. It's all connected, of course. And that accesses truth and resources once you are more directly connected with your soul or spiritual awareness, which is what this process directly does. And a lot of other processes do it. The way we teach EFT, it also involves awareness, but not so directly as this. That's why we often use this process in conjunction with EFT or other things, or often just by itself as a preferred way of helping people get healing and guidance. So it's holistic. Everything is connected, right? And once you know this secret about the connection, the interconnection, it is very exciting. It is enlightening. It's straightforward. It's doable. It's easy to do. And it gives you connection with your true potential. You start to see things from a different perspective. There's a Indian Vedic text that says from a different, higher perspective, everything looks different. Said differently, from the top of the mountain, the world looks much different from down in the valley.
Or down in the mud.
Down in the mud pits, it looks even different still, right?
Right.
So the birthright is to live fully and happily, but we forget that. Our life is but a birth and a forgetting, William Wordsworth. We kind of forget things. And that's what we're here to learn. We're here to learn it all over, but at a deeper level. So when we end, we see the world from new, fresh eyes. And T.S. Eliot, I'm in kind of a literary mode now. Anyways, part of this is to deal with the challenges that we inevitably face and will grow from, right? The crucible of life, we come out of that richer and stronger if we don't settle, if we keep going, if we gain tools like spiritual kinesiology and get more connected with our soul, which is directly connected with your spiritual growth and evolution. And that can be even marked and evaluated and determined as we discuss in our trainings, our deeper coaching healing trainings, where we go into how people evolve and how spiritual kinesiology is a rapid way to get there. Quick story about spiritual kinesiology. We will do a demo toward the end of the class here too, so stick around for that. But here's one time I was at another conference speaking, showing people spiritual kinesiology, right? And so you ask for a volunteer. We like live volunteers, just sort of be in the live wire. You don't know what's going to happen, but that makes it exciting and interesting, right? So the person comes up and I say, how can I help you? And she tells me that she's been a meditator daily for years, actually, even since this incident happened. And the issue was a betrayal from her best friend, who 7 years ago, they started a healing spiritual group of some sort, and her best friend at the time actually embezzled the funds and stole the funds from her. So she felt very betrayed and had this grievance and never was able to go further from that. So here she is. She wants a demo from me. I'm up in front of people, right? I'm thinking to myself, so this person has meditated every day for 7 years, and I'm going to help her in 10 minutes resolve this issue that's obviously agonizing her in one of the deepest issues in her life in just a few minutes, right? Okay. So, but having done this a lot, like Jane was saying, and we've seen miraculous results, I'm going to trust spirits, and I can't control it anyways, and just do it and see what happens, right? I'll be unattached to whatever happens. Okay, so we do one round of spiritual kinesiology, like you'll see demonstrated shortly. It's very brief. It takes a few minutes, touching a couple points and anchoring with the soul, right? And so this feeling of hurt and betrayal, after one round, I said, now, how are you doing? A reevaluation. She goes, it doesn't seem to be there anymore. I mean, I feel like a lot of empathy. I feel kind of sort of empathy for her. I sort of feel like I'm fine now. I said, so it's not there anymore? I'm kind of almost doubting what she's saying to me. Sometimes I do it just to check the person, just to test them. Are they saying it for me? She goes, no, I feel fine. And we did another round just to anchor it deeply. And she felt fine, and she felt ready to go on with her life and to forgive the person and realize that, chalk it up as a challenging deep learning experience, which you could grow on and move on. So that was a 10-minute, 15-minute at most demo in front of a group of people. Kind of amazing, isn't it? So you can see how that would help her with her spiritual growth, right? So it's going to help spiritual kinesiology with a wide range of situations, often emotional or mental or spiritual. It can even be physical at times. Fears and doubts, challenges that we have with our life. And eventually, as you move on and you go further in your journey, as some of you know, your challenges become more not about surviving, in other words, safety and security, but about thriving, about living fully, about making sure you make the most out of life. So by the time you reach the end point of this life, you've done everything you can and you feel satisfied, having explored what you explored and learning whatever, spiritual kinesiology, whatever you were led to, and you followed it. You didn't just say, oh, I don't know, I guess maybe later or whatever. You didn't bail out on yourself, so to speak. Okay. And Jane, did you have any comments thus far? Anything you wanted to add there?
No, not right now.
So we've been programmed with a lot of misunderstandings about who we are and what's possible. And much of the programming is unconscious. We don't even realize it, how much it's holding us back until it becomes evident in these types of profound interventions like spiritual kinesiology. And we realize there's much more to life. There's much more that's possible. Now, traditionally, there's an allopathic doctor approach, although there's a wonderful movement in medicine, allopathic medicine and the functional medicine, as it's now called, where holistically, we're multidimensional energetic beings. We're using a physical body, which obviously gets worn down and has problems along with emotional, mental, and spiritual challenges along the way. And the deepest level, as we said, that secret is things are spiritually based. And if you just remove the weeds, if you just give a quick fix, it's treating the symptoms, but not the cause, not the spiritual cause. Like, why am I having this pain in the neck? Who is it that's a pain in the neck? What is it that I can't stomach? Why is my stomach always bothering me? Why do I have this foot problem? Why can't I move forward in life? So there's some deeper things that are going on, preventing us from living fully, more happily, more in the moment. And it may show up in physical levels. It will to some degree. It may even be illness and disease and injury too. A disclaimer though, we are not doctors. We practice as ministers of holistic healing, more complementary to medical professionals. Jane, you want to go onto the source of healing and truth?
Right. Yeah. And it kind of following up on what Phil mentioned about everything in the body has meaning. Our source, the way that we understand it, our source of spiritual connection, the deepest connection comes through the heart, which is at the center of our being. And it really kind of defies connecting with that truth in our hearts, almost defies where we are as a society, or just at the level of development where many people are these days. And it's like, if you look at the number of thoughts that we have going through our heads every day, and most people are actually identify themselves with the thoughts that are going on in their heads. And some experts estimate that we have as many as 70,000 of them every day, which is interesting.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. It's
a lot of mental overload.
Yeah, and it lacks balance. It's almost impossible. If you want to be more aware and more, you could say, centered, just really centered in who you are, it's almost impossible to monitor and corral all those thoughts. I mean, how do you get them into some kind of a meaningful relationship to each other? And it's interesting also that they're not all worth listening to. One time I was working with a client, and she was telling me she had a thought about something, and she was going on about it, and I said, well, I mean, is that really an important thought to you? I mean, is it really worth kind of feeding it some more, giving it more energy? And it never had occurred to her that she could question whether her thoughts had value or not. And a lot of them don't. A lot of them are things that we picked up in the past, or people said that may not even mean anything, or just things that are related to perceived limitations that we have about ourselves and what's possible. If we're feeling stressed and anxious and overwhelmed and all those things, we're not, the thoughts that we have are not the most productive ones that we could possibly have. So this is where the heart comes in. And I always keep this resource of thoughts on the heart, because it's so profound and amazing when you get into it. And many of you probably have already. People commonly talk about the heart, like getting to the heart of the matter, or I have to follow my heart, or my head says this, but my heart says no. And, and I just have to, we're compelled. We understand at some deep level, it's the center of our being. And it's really our source of truth and wisdom. In the spiritual traditions of India, the heart is seen as the doorway to our essential nature. And what in Western philosophies, what many people call the seat of the soul. Philip referred to the soul. And when talking about this also, we're not talking about any specific beliefs or anything. This is all, the wonderful thing also about this kind of work is that it's all verifiable for yourself. You can find out what it does just by trying it out. And if you look at that, the seat of the soul, it's no coincidence that the heart is really at the center of our being. And for people who understand, like the chakra system, the energy centers that run through the body, it's right in the middle. And it kind of divides our higher nature from our lower nature, which is an interesting thing to understand, because it is what many also call a spiritual bridge. And we view it that way too. It's like by opening and cultivating a relationship with your heart, it's like you're going across a bridge to a phenomenon we call the ultimate paradigm shift or reality shift. You can completely shift the way that you live in the world in amazing ways, and open to that place where you can manifest things and miracles can happen, and you also have a different sense of yourself, who you are and what's possible for you. So it's really amazing. And modern science also is starting to agree too. There's many of you probably have heard of the Heart Math Institute. And they've shown that as our hearts become clear, filling with love and gratitude, amazing things happen. Our heart rhythms shift, bringing the whole body into a new sense of harmony. And it reduces stress, which is a killer, by the way, if you don't know that, and relaxes the organs. It produces positive effects that even offset the effects of aging. The coherence also engages higher cognitive functioning of the brain and increases intuition. So, and also studies have found that the heart possesses a complexity that exceeds even the brain and the head that we admire so much. And science is exploring the heart as a second brain.
Mm-hmm.
It has its own wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that was for us so meaningful because we were searching. We searched for years for a source of truth for ourselves. You know, there are those teachers and gurus out there, and I'm not wanting to belittle any. I know there are a lot of really wonderful ones, and we know this is not the only way. Also, it's just one. But at a certain point, I think we all realize, well, I need to follow my own path. You know, this thing of somebody else telling me what to do next, it's not working for me. Nobody knows more than I do. No one knows more than I know in my heart. And I think that an important thing about it is that it's not just about recognizing that. It's about learning to live, ultimately, if you really want to make the best of it, to live from the heart. And the heart and the heart and the head function together as a team. And that's really the ultimate goal. So you're not excluding anything. And as I said, we're not talking about any particular belief or system. It's actually just connecting with the resources that you have in yourself. And a heart-centered place is your most, I think, effective place or resourceful place to be, to make the right decisions for yourself. So it has a lot of benefits, and also it's the most tremendous source of healing. So that's where we go for healing with this process.
Right. Let's see. Excuse me.
All right. Well, Philip's looking at it. I love this quote from Albert Einstein. Few are those who see with their own eyes and feel with their own hearts. I think that's really profound and beautiful.
Were you going to do a brief soul centering here, Jane?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So what we talked about the reframing with the soul. That's part of the spiritual kinesiology process, which starts off optionally with muscle testing, which we'll do a little example coming up here, and then you find the issue, and then you anchor in the soul's energy. So part of it is, what is the soul's energy? So we want to give you a taste of that, and we know you've all had your own experiences of it, but this is one way to explicitly experience it. And it'll be just a very brief soul centering.
Mm-hmm. And this is a process we learned to do that, for me at least, it completely changed my life. I'm just going to spend a couple minutes, but spending some time with it. And actually now Philip and I spend a little time in the morning centering ourselves, because it really brings you into the truth of who you are. So if you're in a place where you can close your eyes and relax, that would be wonderful. If you're driving, please don't close your eyes and relax. And just start breathing. Because if you, just by taking some wonderful breaths and focusing on feeling the breath in your body, it takes you out of your head a little bit. And what you want to do is get out of that chatter in your head and into what you're experiencing in your body. So just breathing in pure energy and light. And then as you exhale, just focus on releasing anything that you feel you don't need right now. And you can breathe some of that beautiful energy into your brain, in your head. And just ask any thoughts that you don't need now to drift off, so you can just be here now. And sometimes I imagine them like little bubbles just floating away. And I tell them, it's also valuable to tell your head that afterwards you can come back and evaluate the process. Just not now. Now you just want to be here. And it also is wonderful to ask any energy that's not yours to leave your space. We have a beautiful field of energy around you and through you. Just ask any other energy to go back to where it came from. So we pick up other people's energy and energy from other places. And it takes us away from ourselves. We also leave pieces of ourselves in other places, which is kind of an odd idea, but just imagine bringing any of your own energy that you left in a different time or place back into your body now. So you can just be here in this moment. You might start to feel like you're settling in. And really, the point of power is in the moment. So focusing on that, you can just start breathing a little bit of that energy into your heart. And just imagine, if you're visual, there's a light there, and as you breathe more energy into it, it becomes brighter. Or if you're more feeling oriented, you might feel a sensation there that becomes deeper and more profound. And just start to allow that to radiate out from your heart. All the love and wisdom that you hold in your heart. Allow it to radiate out, filling your whole body, every cell, and then radiating out into that field of energy around you. And also allow that to expand out further. We hold ourselves in, we contract our energy. You can now just be spacious. This is your time, your place. And it feels good just to be oneself. Philip suggested it builds confidence doing this too, which it does. Just allowing yourself to be who you are and recognizing that that's the best person you can possibly be. That's what you came here to be. And from this place, there are many things you can do. One is to journal and to receive guidance from this elevated state. And also you can use this energy for healing. So one way to do that is just to imagine, if you were to imagine this state as a color, what might it be? And then you can recreate that later, or a feeling. Mm-hmm. So you can just breathe and come right back into that place of wholeness and connectedness and centeredness. It's also worth mentioning that in working with clients, I find, and I think Philip does too, one of the main things that is causing a problem for clients I work with, and our students also, is not being centered, not being just centered in who they are. Because if we're kind of off, it's kind of like you can't be as resourceful as you want to be. Mm-hmm. And this is an easy way, and just as suggested, the more you do this,
right,
the more it creates that shift that I mentioned and has been validated in science.
Right.
And your whole relationship to yourself and your reality changes.
Right. You get a sense of the big picture and where you are and where you're going, or the possibilities emerge. Right. So that soul centering is.
And I just before you go on, you also, coming out of it, you want to breathe in more active energy and feel yourself grounded. Yeah.
Back in the room with your feet on the floor. So that was a little brief transportation, but that becomes more and more that spiritual heaven into earth, into your daily life, the more you do it, as Jane said. And if you learn that, and maybe you have your own version of it. Okay, let's see, got someone to mute here.
Yeah, if you're talking to someone,
yeah,
and you're not muted.
Yeah, I'd see if I can find who's. Maybe.
There's a fellow there who's not muted.
May have to remove someone here.
Jack of hearts. Seven of spades.
Someone.
Six of spades. Seven of hearts. Four of spades. Eight of clubs. Nine of clubs.
That's it. That's all.
Okay, I don't know. We got. There we.
There's that one fellow who wasn't muted.
Okay.
He went away. I don't know what that was.
That was a intervention from somewhere. A strange message that we will figure out later. Okay. Anyway, going on further, you may want to go further into this. Some of you may be wondering, hey, how do I actually learn all this? I realize this is an introduction here. And if that is the case, let me put up a couple ways to going forward. We have a holistic coach and healer certification online training. At this time, it's June 12th. It's coming soon at this point in time, and there's a link here getting through it at tinyurl.com/HOL coach is the link. Or there's a home study, an online smaller course to learn just spiritual kinesiology. The holistic coach and healer puts it in the bigger framework of spiritual growth and coaching. And in each of them, you'll learn these checklists we came up, which are extremely valuable to pinpoint issues and how to help yourself become more confident and clear going forward. So that's something you might consider. And we'll talk about spiritual kinesiology, SK, now on the big picture here. Just zoom out a moment again. So this is a powerful system. It pinpoints issues quickly. It relates them to your wholeness and helps clear them and puts it in the context of often your journey and where you want to go. And it uses kinesiology muscle testing, which you can do on yourself or with another. You can do it with your arm. There's dozens of ways to muscle test. We like to sometimes lean back or forth. So it's a yes or no system, whether you're getting a yes, is this a yes to the statement? You know, if you focus on your, say if you focus on your office or your, and you lean backwards, you go weak, then there's something blocking you about your office, you know. Or if you focus on your house or your marriage, you know, if you go back and forth, that something is off. If you're going back, you're getting weak, or your arm is going down. So that's a muscle testing binary yes, no, strong, weak system that helps pinpoint the issue. And this shows things that are unconscious. They may be conscious too. You may know there's something wrong with your marriage that's been bothering you, or your office, or not. One time I had a client, and I did a muscle testing checklist and asked him about, I got a weakness for his office. He said, no, nothing's wrong with my office. I love my office. It's a new office. But after we went into this process, he said, oh, I actually am gay, and I didn't want people to know about that in my office, and I'm worried what they think. So actually it was correct. And not to say it's always correct, but it often is once you become good at muscle testing. Although that's optional, you can still do the reframing and anchoring without it. And there are checklists, as we said, which you can kind of like a doctor going through and analyze. We don't use the word diagnose just because of the medical terminology, but you can figure out, evaluate what's going on, where the issue is, where the weak link is. Instead of just randomly searching and pecking, it gives you a precise approach that you can use over and over and find out things which are often hidden, unaware. And for EFT users and people who use other modalities, this is a great alternative to use alone or in conjunction, because sometimes you want to do something different, or you're just guided like this would be a better approach. I like to use them both because that guidance from the soul, when you get into that soul place, which maybe you accessed in that meditation Jane did a few minutes ago, when you're in that place, you often can shift and get profound awareness, insight, and healing, even in addition after doing something like EFT, or by the reframing and anchoring by itself. This process is drawn from NLP. Some of the terminology, reframing and anchoring, are NLP, neuro-linguistic programming anchoring. They have their own language, which you may or may not know. You're anchoring, you're making a reference. We often have negative unconscious anchors. In other words, if the sound of someone's voice irritates you and it reminds you of your father's voice, I don't like the way that person speaks. I don't know why. Just that sound that's a negative anchor. It may have really nothing to do with that person, but because of that anchor. Or if a smell of a flower reminds you of a negative experience, then you don't like the smell of that flower. And it could be a positive anchor too. Something always puts you in a positive. So it's an easy process, a simple process. It works pretty directly. Sometimes it sounds, as Jane said, like it can't work. It's too easy. It can't be this simple. it can't really have these effects, but it does. You'll have to find out for yourself if you want to go further beyond this. Someone else may have to mute. I'm kind of hearing another extraneous noise coming here too, so if you can mute yourself, that would be good. Okay, Jane, anything else before we go into a demo here?
No, I guess I'm ready.
Okay, so we want to do a demo, and we have a person actually who's in our holistic coaching and healing program who has volunteered to do a demo with the checklist. And Karen, I'll unmute you, Karen. Hi.
Sure.
Karen, you there?
Hold on. Okay,
there
yeah,
you go. There you go.
Okay,
Okay, Karen's there. And so we'll do a demo, and you don't even really have to have a specific issue. You can, but by doing these checklists, you can find the issue by just using the checklist as a diagnostic tool.
So did you have something in mind, Karen?
Well, I do, but if we can, whatever way you want to do it, Philip's fine with me, checklist or not. I do have an issue though.
Okay, well we can still use a checklist. Why don't you tell me what you want to look at?
Okay. Well, about 3 years ago, my brother and I were always on kind of weird terms. He was always very competitive towards me intellectually, and so we didn't really get along very well. And about 3 years ago, he said some really horrible things to me about me and my children, and it hurt very deeply. And I really haven't talked to him much since then.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to clear that up if
Mm-hmm.
you could do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we have actually this current lesson checklist, and I could just go through that and just to get a sense of maybe the deeper kind of where it's coming from. And
Sure.
And this often with EFT too, EFT users, we have a lot of them, I'm sure here. With EFT, if you're not specific enough, that's one of the main reasons why EFT doesn't work. If there's something that the person needs to understand better, and this works really well. This particular checklist that I can't really go into the details. We have a whole series of checklists, and that's one of the keys to this is having effective checklists that you can go through to determine kind of what's going on. So so I'm going to test this myself. Obviously, I can't pull on Karen's arm because she's in the place. So we use surrogate testing, and which I've been doing for many years now, and I'm quite comfortable doing that. And I think I'll just use the back and forth one that Philip mentioned. And the intention of it is just when I move forward, that means I'm in the right direction. When I'm going back, I'm going in the wrong direction. So I'm wanting to identify what on this checklist we want to explore.
Okay.
So hold on a minute. I'm just going to look at this.
Right here. Oh no, it's not. It's right.
We're getting a lot of interference again.
Yeah.
No, I don't see anybody.
Okay, I think I got it.
You figured it out?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, so
go ahead.
okay, so and these are the idea of this is that these are kind of cues that she can take to that maybe will trigger some awareness. So what I got is that it related to your power in the world in relation to moving forward in your life. Does that make any sense for
Yeah, it
that
does.
experience? And how might that make sense?
Well, because, just to give you an example, when we would get together, I would say something about maybe, of course, you're never supposed to do this, talk about religion and politics when you're not in family, but, I was talking about global warming and he just flatly refused to believe it. And I was like kind of dumbfounded, and so we had this big argument about how like I know I'm a know-it-all, and so and he felt threatened about that. So I felt that I couldn't be myself around him, and I had to always watch what I was saying, so I didn't ever feel like that I could really express myself, and I had to kind of rein myself in a little bit.
Stifle yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. And in that situation, what does that feel like emotionally? What do you feel emotionally in that situation?
Well, it's anger, frustration, sadness that he didn't respect anything that I said. I felt belittled.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So, just measuring them. How strong is the anger when you focus on the anger from 1 to 10? And this is part of it, measuring before and after. Right. It's a way to really have a sense of what's changed, so that's not just this amorphous kind of So, the anger.
The anger. Well, it used to be a lot higher, but I worked through some of it. So I'd say right now that's about a 6 on the scale, 0 to 10. Okay.
And frustration?
That's probably about an 8.
Mm-hmm. Sadness?
About a 5.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And feeling belittled?
That was probably the worst one. I would say, well, right now it's about an 8 also.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, with this process, we don't have to focus on any specific of those emotions. We're just focusing on the whole experience. And what you do is you anchor in 2 places. It doesn't matter where you anchor. It's focusing energy. So to start, Karen.
Jane, maybe she could anchor on the head, the positive, just so people could see it.
Do you want me to do?
I shoulders,
can't. I can do
shoulders,
that.
yes. People can see it. Mm-hmm, that would be
I'll
good.
do my head and my shoulder because I can't really put my hands.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, my head and my shoulder. Is that okay?
Okay, so I guess just pick one and focus on those feelings, being in that situation with your brother, and just put one hand, maybe just put it on your shoulder.
Okay. What should I do with my left hand? Okay.
It doesn't matter.
I'm just used to doing the left and the right, so let's do that. Okay.
Actually, why don't we do both shoulders? Because that might be kind of interesting in itself, just you end up touching yourself.
Yeah, I know. Right?
Okay, so.
All right, so there we go.
Just continue to focus on those feelings. Okay, and let that go. And now imagine going back into that beautiful, soulful state. Can you evoke that? Just breathing in that beautiful energy and connecting with the light in your heart. And let me know when you can really feel that.
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, it might be nice just to put your hand on your chest near your heart. That hand. Put the other hand near right there on your heart. And just allow that energy to be even stronger, breathing in more of it. And then just releasing that and letting your mind relax for a moment. Just put both hands in both places at the same time. And release the O, the first on shoulder, And now release the what on your heart. And take a nice breath and let me know what you're experiencing now.
Well, I'm definitely feeling a lot more calm and in a more of a compassionate space. The anger is, well, that's not really it's about maybe a 2. The frustration, that's probably about a 2 also. The other 2, the belittling is probably about maybe a 4. forgot what the other one was.
It was sadness, which was
Sadness. Oh yeah, sadness. That's pretty much gone. I don't feel that at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to do one more round?
Sure.
Okay. So just focus on the remaining sense of being belittled and just whatever else, the remaining anger and frustration. And when you have that brought up, then just put one hand on your shoulder the way you did before. And just continue focusing on that for a moment. Then release it and go back into that beautiful, soulful state, breathing that light into your heart. And let me know when you're feeling that.
Yeah, there.
Okay, and just taking in another deep breath of it as you put your hand on your heart. And then just releasing that. Allow your mind to relax and put both hands in both places at the same time. Release the shoulder. And then release the one on your heart. And take another nice breath. And let me know what you're experiencing now.
Well, let's see. The anger's gone. The frustration's gone. The other stuff is there's. It's just a little left. But I mean, I'm feeling. I would say if I had to think about my brother, I feel more like the focus of the sadness is more now towards him and how hurt he is and how he has to act like that because of how hurt he is and the things that he drew in his life. So it's not really focused on me so much, but on my compassion to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It switched. It switched over to like instead of me feeling bad about myself, now I'm feeling more compassionate towards him, and because he's hurting, that's why he's doing
Right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. And understanding that, then it doesn't have anything to do with your power in relation to what you do with your life or who you are or anything.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Any other insights or things you'd like to mention about that?
Well, not really. I mean, I feel better about things. I just I'm not sure whether he's ready for me to contact him and call him and stuff. You know, I'm not sure that he's ready for that. But I, you know, if we ever talked, I would be open to, you know, improving our relationship. But you know, I think that it's something that I'm very much at peace with it now.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
It's not, you know, it
At
feels
peace.
a lot
Yeah,
better.
it's a good ending point at peace. I like
Yeah.
Yeah.
shift.
Yeah. And it is the thing about when you have blocks like that, they take up space that you're not able to use with creating the life that you want. So they're sapping energy from you, and we all have those things. And sometimes we just put up with them, thinking, well, and men especially do this more than women, but we all do it. It's like, oh, I can handle this. You know, it's not that big a deal. But it is.
It is.
If you want to be your best, it really is. And you know, it's obviously just not that pleasant. And that's a beautiful example.
It is.
You know, of turning that hurt into compassion.
Right.
And you can tell from that. It's like some people speak a lot about forgiveness as a necessary step, and you can tell Karen is holding no grudges, which is really wonderful. And the grudges, you know, they just hurt her if she has them. So.
Right.
So thank you, Karen. That was beautiful.
Thanks. That was great.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that'll be a story for a future webinar. I'll just say we were at a webinar, and Karen came on, and she had these feeling belittled by her brother, And it was this very standoffish, difficult situation. She did some spiritual kinesiology. It took less than 10 minutes. She reframed the process with her soul a couple times and totally shifted her relationship and felt peace at it.
At peace.
At peace, and to be continued with what now she'll be in a much more empowered, resourceful, compassionate place for herself in general, and then in particular with her brother.
Right. Yeah.
So, Jane, do you mind if I'll just summarize the steps that just what you just did, just a real kind of brief, like what did people, since they haven't really learned the process, I'll just review what you did briefly.
Yeah, one thing I do want to mention, and I think it's probably obvious to people also, if you really like EFT, you could use EFT for the clearing.
Right.
You might see how that the reframing and connecting with that soul energy,
right.
really, that kind of evokes a lot of insights.
Right, that's the big plus.
And I think, you could see that Karen had a lot of insights in a very short time, and cleared something that had been disturbing her for years. You said it was 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, rapidly, yeah. That's amazing.
So
just in briefly what Jane did, you didn't see what we call current lesson checklist, the muscle testing checklist that Jane used, and it's based on chakras, and the one that was weak was power. That was the one. Jane was surrogate muscle testing for Karen.
She felt belittled, which is disempowered.
all those is a very simple, easy process once you learn it, and there's a lot of subtleties and things that you can do with this and integrate it. So she found that on the muscle testing, asked Karen, she found the issue. We could have started with no issue and just determined where there was a weakness in her life, but there was the brother issue and different feelings that were problematic, constrictive, and we measured those, the SUDS level, like you do in EFT, how intense they are, and belittlement, and there were some other ones that were very strong. And she did 2 rounds of reframing with the soul, touching one part, which was the negative anchor for the negative feelings, and then touched, in this case, her heart for the positive anchor for the soul. You could actually touch any place arbitrarily. It looks like a sleight of hand, like I'm pressing magic buttons. What are you doing behind the scenes there, And that's, as we said, when we first saw the early version, the hypnokinesiology, and people would have rapid transformation. It almost seemed too good to be true. But having developed spiritual kinesiology and actually done this now for over 20 years, so you can imagine how many people we've trained and how many sessions we've done. And the results, not always, we can't guarantee them, are usually like what you saw with Karen. That would be, as amazing as that was, that tends to be typical. Although you may have to go much further. And of course, the better you become at this, you hold the space and you're more expert at doing it, of course. That's why you'd want to learn and master the process.
Yeah. But, and it's also, I think, just for me, doing it as a practitioner, I love doing it. It's so much fun.
So we're getting close to the end. One more thing I wanted to add is why coaching is also essential, really, to get the full package of helping yourself and other people. The healing, the spiritual kinesiology, you might say, is more feminine, more receptive, more intuitive. And the coaching is more the masculine, the more doing, the more goal setting, the more supports, the more strategizing, more course correcting. So that's going to bring the spirit in the form when you have a way to go forward from, in this case, if we were going forward with Karen, what are some strategies, what are ways we could support her to integrate her realization, her healing into her life and her soul wisdom, and how to follow that in a practical way. So that's why you want to get the coaching and learn coaching. And it's what we call the 3-part process of clearing, integrating, and activating. So you want to clear things like we did with Karen, clearing that challenge with her brother, integrate it, find out ways to integrate through the healing and the coaching, and then activate. How can we activate a new level, a new octave, a new higher way of being and living fully? So if you're just a person who just wants to heal, I mean, there's some people like that, and probably a lot of holistic people, and we started off more in that way. You realize at a certain point you need the coaching part. You need them both to support the person to go forward. to use the inner guidance. So, for instance, say you wanted to build a business or start a practice. A lot of people want to build a holistic practice or their own business, say. Well, you want to get the right mindset. You'd want to clear it. You want to use something like reframing and anchoring, spiritual kinesiology. You know, what's holding you back, those doubts and fears and resistance, right? And then once you get that, you want to start to get strategies on how to have a successful business. You need them both, right, to succeed, just to give you one example. And that's what we teach in our coaching and healing training, the bigger program coming up where we use spiritual kinesiology with coaching and other things. Jane, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think that understanding that, if for those who haven't heard this before, the idea of clearing, integrating, and activating, it's such an important part, because some people, they just want to clear, clear, clear. And we have people call us now, say, well, you know, I've been doing, people say you should do EFT every day, and I've been doing EFT every day for 6 months, and nothing is happening. It's not helping. And there are a variety of reasons why that would be happening. But it's also important to recognize that the healing is just one step in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Another, if you want to actually be able to create something with your life, you want to integrate that, as Philip suggested, into your reality, and then bring it out, you know, whatever the shift is, to be able to actually manifest something from it. In Karen's case, there may not be anything specific she would want to manifest from that, but she might manifest a different relationship to people who are mean and nasty. You know, and
Right.
realize, well, you know, they're the ones who are hurt, not me. And so now from this experience, I can understand that I can be compassionate and not take it personally. So that might be kind of a coaching tip, and she might, you know, actually be following a path, you know, of finding ways to have that happen. Another thing that people do, spiritual people, a lot of times, I just want more light, you know, more light, more light. You can't keep bringing in more light without clearing out some of the old, you know, stuff. It's like you're trying to redecorate a room without taking out the old furniture. You know, and people can become spacey, and that's, I think, why a lot of times we have this, you know, this kind of reputation for being spacey, because we are. And so you want to, you know, we're really talking about bringing your spirit fully into form, you know, into your body and into your life. And that's where the miracles are, you know, the results.
Mm-hmm. Right. And speaking of results, I want to conclude here with people who want to go further, because you may want to really integrate this stuff into your life and learn it and make it your own. It's well worth doing that. And we have a training coming up June 12th at this point, as I said, for holistic coaching and healing. And some people just may want to learn spiritual kinesiology, which is option 2 here. And that's an online home study course, which is a wonderful course just about spiritual kinesiology you can take on your own. Now, other people want to go more fully into all of this, and they want the big picture, the whole enchilada, and they really want a deep dive. And that's why this longer program, the Coach Healer, might be for you. It's a wonderful journey. Karen can talk about it in a moment too, and how life-changing, really life-changing it is. It's a blend of the coaching and healing. It gives you tremendous confidence and clarity. I think you'll find often huge breakthroughs, ahas, and quantum shifts, because it is 8 to 12 months. You'll be a new person. You'll remember this webinar. Say, I remember when I heard this webinar, I didn't know much about it. It sounded kind of interesting. I figured I'd go for it. And we'll be with you weekly if you're doing coaching and healing. We're live. Jane and I are teaching this live, but we're actually doing a lot of demonstrations and teaching. And actually you have labs and practice too, a time each week where you practice with a partner and get feedback. So you really make it your own, and you get Q&A directly with Jane and I. So you have this direct support. Little note here. Caveat, something that to pay attention to. Most holistic people, from what I've seen, lack support. Support is huge. I don't know anyone who's real successful who's manifested more externally successful things, who doesn't have a support system. And the coaching healing support system gives you support from Jane and myself directly through teaching, and there's Q&A times where you directly access us. We don't have time for that in this call, but in the training we do every week, a little bit of learning every week is the best way to go. That way it will make it your own, so you have enough to integrate and that without getting overwhelmed. That's how big shifts come and how people have jump stages of evolution through doing this weekly. So it's a profound course. It's a course done by Zoom conference, webinar, this style. It's recorded to review. You'll get a tested system. You'll get coaching and healing, very rare too. It'll build your confidence. You'll be with a like-minded group of people. As you know, it's very hard to find people like yourself, those of you on the call, to be with every week. And people develop personal and professional relationships. Sometimes become very good friends in the course and even beyond it. That's a wonderful benefit. You'll learn in the recorded sessions in this next course, and the one coming up June 12th, about the core success principles you need. You learn what we call the high thymus or high vibration approach, how to keep yourself in a high vibration, what that is and how to do it. You've had a taste of that in this course, in this class. You'll learn the powerful checklists, like the current lesson checklist, the one Jane did to quickly pinpoint Karen's situation today. You'll learn that and make it your own. And there's other wonderful checklists. There's a whole bunch of them you'll get and learn. You'll learn more about the reframing and anchoring. You'll learn about something called group and societal archetypes, these unconscious influences, archetypal influences that are there right now. And until you get to a level of awareness, you don't realize how much they affect and influence your life. And that can include things like codependence and boundaries and all kinds of things. You'll learn about different levels of healings and many other processes, many of which we have developed ourselves, Jane and I, or we've researched and tested and found them to be very effective in combining them with coaching and healing. So anyway, that's something that begins soon. Contact us. Go to that webpage, tinyurl.com/HOL-coach. Set up a time to talk with us directly to see if it's the right fit for you or which one is or how we can help you. Let's see, Sharon, you want to mention? Sharon is on the call, and she also took our training. Sharon is a nurse and a coach. Sharon Williamson, you want to share a little bit how it was for you? And you used a lot of spiritual kinesiology. You mentioned it's one of your URLs, one of your email addresses now.
One of my favorite modalities. I first learned from Philip and Jane, was it 2004?
Yeah, quite a while ago that you started.
A long time ago.
It's been a while. Yeah, and all the things I learned from them, by using all the modalities they taught me, I just released 100 pounds, and I've kept it off for 13 years now.
And helping with your fibromyalgia was greatly reduced, right, too?
Absolutely. From one of the healing sessions in that first class, I went home that night and took all the pain medicine out of the pill boxes that I set up every week, and didn't need those anymore either. I released the need for having the pain, and I still have fibromyalgia, but it is so manageable now. So I've lost weight. I've totally revised how I feel in life, and I encourage everybody to take this education for yourself, and if you want to build a practice, I am doing a lot of work with chakras, EFT, guided imagery, and I just love working with people. It's just so helpful, and they just get so damn happy.
Right.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Very good. Thank you.
too.
Thanks, Sharon. And that people take the program, first of all, for just for themselves, for the profound shifts in spiritual growth and quantum personal transformation. But many people want to start a practice, enhance a practice, add tools to their practice, or build a business, or find out their purpose. We have a whole course on purpose that's woven into this 8 to 12 month coaching, healing, online certification program. And yeah, why don't I go back to Karen, because Karen has just recently completed one round of the coaching healing course too, and she manifested actually a whole metaphysical bookstore last week when she finished the course. Karen, you want to, some pretty amazing things do happen.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. But first I want to say, I just, last week was my last class for the whole year, and you learn, like Sharon was saying, the modality upon modality upon modality is not just one thing. You take somebody's class and you just learn one modality. You learn so much stuff that it just boggles the mind. Notebooks. I mean, literally several 3-inch notebooks full of just stuff that you get with the class, and the attention that you get. It is a library. It is a library, and this stuff that and you get to talk to them. You become, I mean, I consider Philip and Jane my friend now.
Oh,
because,
yeah, for sure.
you just go through this stuff, and it's just amazing, just the personal transformation, and then the things that you can do to help other people go through the same thing. It's just, it really is amazing. I just can't, I loved it so much, I'm doing it again. So I'm starting, because there was so much that I felt that I needed to do this again so that I can get it more. The stuff that I missed, which, there was so much.
Right.
That it's hard to get the time.
Yeah,
It is,
there's
yeah.
a lot there.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
some people will take it at their own rate. Some people will kind of go in very slowly. Some people will jump in. You'll do the right way for you and the right amount for you. So just figure out, you'll figure that out. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. And it's quite convenient because it's online like this, recorded. It's Tuesdays, Thursdays, 5 p.m. Pacific time, and for about 90 minutes or so. Recorded. But thanks for sharing that, Karen.
Sharon seems to want to say something.
Oh, Sharon's back. Okay. Sharon has one more thought. Yeah, okay.
Well, I didn't mention that I did recently take the course again as a refresher. And there was even more than the first time. So
it's evolving.
It keeps evolving and growing as we do.
Yes.
There's a lot to it, and part of it is for people taking it. You might say, well, that sounds like a long time, a year. Well, look at this. If you're thinking of this, would you like to be supported by Jane and myself and other fellow students every week for a year? Do you have anything like that in your life? Would you like to learn profound practical tools that you can put to use immediately and will have not only this year, but for the rest of your life? Would you like to get clear on your life purpose, not only what it is, and maybe you already know, but live it, or live it more deeply? And that's just kind of a beginning sample of why people participate in this, if you're drawn to it. And you may or may not. But if you are, I would encourage you to go to the website, the tinyurl.com/HOL coach is the abbreviation that's up. And check it out. Give us a call. You can plan a personal session. It's a small group, 15 to 20 people. So you'll have a lot of connections and a lot of support. Jane, you want to add anything?
Well, I want to say hi to Kim. I see Kim.
Oh, hi, Kim.
She's one of the people who's coming in with us.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy.
People who are new, are already kind of getting
and she's an old friend too.
All right. Yeah, a wonderful way to go further on different levels in your life. I see
Kaisa's here too.
And Kaisa, boy, it's many
old friends week.
Many old friends. So, that's great to be with you. We hope to connect with you on whatever level, our newsletter, our courses, our trainings, or whatever it is, and if we can help you, personal sessions, etc. And going further with spiritual kinesiology, holistic coaching, and more.